I have very exciting news for you. I am going to introduce you to one of our earlier mentees, a original protege of mine who became very successful. In fact, she is now one of our leading commercial estate mentors for our company, and I work with her on a daily basis. So what you're going to see is that she's very smart, she's very experienced, she's managed over 3,400 apartment units. She knows the commercial estate business inside and out. And she's what we call in our company our resident numbers expert. And every successful investor and company needs a person just like that. So all these years we kept her to ourselves until today. Now you'll be able to work with her directly and get content from her directly. I am so excited. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Julia Sheehan. Hello, everyone. All right, thank you for joining us here. And as I promised, here is Julia Sheehan. So Julia, welcome. And just so you guys know, I work with her on a daily basis for many years. She started off again as a student and became a coach many years ago. Work with her daily. She is the sharpest person you're ever going to meet involving operations on commercial property. So again, Julia, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
All right. So Julia, we're going to jump right into it, right? And could you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So a little bit about me and my background. Growing up, my parents, they were W-2 employees, which was great. They did well for themselves. They did a little bit of investing here and there in some real estate, but they never saw it as a means to have a full-time income. So it wasn't really in my DNA, essentially. And I always saw my parents' friends, their sphere of influence, they all own, not all, but a lot of them owned commercial real estate. So I recognized that at a young age. They owned strip malls, plazas, things like that. So seeing their life and how they were able to always be with their kids and, have a lot of time freedom, I recognized that. So fast forward to me in college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I knew it was real estate related. I knew I wanted to do something with real estate. I didn't want to be an agent. I don't know why. I think I just didn't like the inconsistent income that it brought. It was back to my background of my parents with their W-2 and just having a steady flow. So again, not in my DNA. So I didn't want to be an agent, but I wanted to do something real estate related, seeing that when I was younger of what their friends were doing. So in college, majored in the basics. I majored in business and marketing, and it brought me to a job fair. At that job fair, I came across this company, and this company, I'm going to reserve their name for privacy reasons, but I ended up applying with them. They were a real estate company that specialized in development, management, and acquisition. Perfect. That's what I was looking for. So I applied alongside a few other people. I want to say it was like anywhere from 8 to 10 other people. So I was really worried I wasn't going to get this job. I did, luckily. And so I started working for this company. Now, this company is nationwide. They're family owned. So they own properties across the country. In my state alone, I'm in a tiny little state here. They owned about 3,500 units prior to me leaving. So I left, I want to say, it's been at least 5 years since I left. They may have acquired more, but that's a lot for where I live. So 3,500 units, and it was all multifamily. That was their specialty. They owned a few commercial. So I started working there. And what I loved about working there was that they only promote within. So you had to start at the bottom. Now, when I say the bottom, that means leasing the apartments, going there on the weekends, making sure you're showing the apartments. I would argue that's probably the most important job of all. So you start there and you work your way up. So that's exactly what I did. And as I worked my way up, I found how important it was to see all these aspects of multifamily, seeing the side of doing the leasing, seeing all that it entails. And it just helps you further grow in the career within that company. So I worked my way up. I finally got to a position that I wanted to be at. This was my, I realized that this is what I loved, was the numbers. I love the numbers. So got to a point where I was overseeing the property's financials. I was looking at the cash flow month to month, seeing how that we could optimize that cash flow, ultimately increasing the NOI. We made our bonuses by increasing the NOI, which I thought was so smart on their part. So anytime that I was able to increase the NOI, I got a bonus. It's very smart. To them, not a lot. To me, it was a lot. So we were looking at this month by month. I mean, a lot of times in real estate, you hear year over year looking at your NOI, but no. We were focusing month to month, doing reports, analyzing every single detail. So it brought me a ton of knowledge. I mean, I learned so much seeing all these numbers, analyzing, being so focused. And I found that that was my niche. That's what I loved to do, was increasing the cash flow for other people. So that's my background in the real estate side of things.
And that is perfect, right? Because that's exactly what you bring to our company and to our students over the years.
Right.
They close on the property, they meet with me first, and I hand over to you, and you get to optimize the cash flow. So just a beautiful system we have here, and created by you. And so yeah, we're prospering because of you. And that's why we have you on here, Julia. So all that knowledge of 3,500 units of management under your belt, and now you can use it to help students do the same, make more money.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
So, okay, great. So how did you make the transition from working in that company, managing all those units, into your own investing?
So, backstory on this is that I thought owning commercial real estate meant that you had to be a millionaire. I thought that that was the only way you get into it. And I think a lot of people tend to think that. So as I was working at this company, I started to realize that these properties, they were large. They were anywhere from 200 units to 500 units. They were big properties. So I started to notice that these properties were owned by investment pools, essentially syndication. So I started to recognize that there's not just one person owning these. This is a lot of investors owning these properties. Okay, so that made me start to think, how do I do this? How can I do this for me? How do I make this kind of life for myself? And not to their fault, they weren't going to be my mentors in this. You know, they had successfully built this amazing company, and they weren't in the position to be mentors. They needed me to do my job. Fine, no problem. So I ended up finding you, and I needed to learn what I didn't know, right? So I didn't know how to find the deals. I didn't know how to get them under contract. I knew how to analyze numbers, but not from the perspective of buying the deal. So that was something I needed to learn as well. So I joined the program, went through all the training, purchased my first property, thanks to you, Peter, and ended up leaving my job to pursue investing full time.
Awesome. Awesome. And then you bless us with joining our team as a mentor. So talk to us about that. How did you make that transition?
So joining the team as a mentor, I essentially did it because I love to help people. And I think that we needed somebody who could essentially be like a overseer of the closed deals. You were looking for that, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you were looking for that, and I fit the bill to some extent. So coming on to joining the team, I was able to help when students closed on their deals and start them from the ground up. Because when these students close on their deals, they really aren't sure what to do day one, right? Did we change the utilities into our name? Did we find a property manager? Did we send out notices that there's new ownership, right? Little things like that. There's so many other of them. And so making sure that these little tiny details are taken care of from the start, and just keeping with those students along the way. So again, I just love helping people, and I love seeing the students come into the program, and I love seeing them go to the point of buying the property. And I get a lot of joy out of getting to that point. As soon as I get on a call with a student who, however long ago, if it was a year or so ago that they joined the program or less, and they now own their first property. It's the best feeling.
Yes, yes, yes. And we love having you as a coach and mentor, and our students do as well. So now we're really looking forward to you, right after this video, you're going to start producing your own material, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, looking forward to that. So, all right. So, uh, a question here. I always wanted to ask you this. I kind of know the answer, but I think you should share this with the audience because it is so true, right? And so, Julia, the question is, out of managing your over 3,000 apartment units plus your own investments, are there a few things that new investors kind of miss out on, operational wise that you can talk about?
There are. Yeah, there's quite a few things that come to mind, but the first one would be the due diligence period.
Hmm.
So before even buying the property, a lot of people underestimate the expenses. So they take the expenses that they're provided for face value, and a lot of the time they're underestimated. So part of what I do is when students come into the program, I make sure to meet with them in order to tell them in their specific state, what should things cost so that
Hmm.
they know and they're not going in blind. That's step one. So as soon as we start analyzing the deal, we need to know where that is. If we miss or underestimate expenses, the entire deal can be thrown off. You could be negative cash flow from day one.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
scary thought.
It is a
Uh,
scary thought. And see, that's important because, and I'm preaching to the choir, right? When a student receives a deal from a seller or an agent, they tend to believe what's given to them in terms of income and expenses. And
right.
you and I know it's 100% incorrect.
Right.
Right? Right. And our job, your job as a coach, is to rerun the numbers and give it back to them so that the NOI is actually more accurate. Right. And most times, unfortunately, once we add everything up for them, the cash flow drops to zero. And we either get to get rid of the deal or we have to renegotiate it for better terms. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
they end up with a better deal.
right. And that's exactly where my strong suit is that I'm so detail oriented.
Yeah.
I will question students until the end of time to make sure that they're making the right decision on the deal. Questions that they maybe ask themselves late at night when they're laying in bed and, should I buy this deal? Is it just an emotional purchase? I'm there to say, ask them up front, is this emotional? Are you just excited because it's the first one? Let's look at the real
Yeah.
facts here. Let's
Yeah.
look at the numbers together and you tell me what you see and I'll tell you what I see. So yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, you are the epitome of falling in love with the numbers and not the property.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah, that is so crucial to have that mentality as a coach. It
Right.
really is. That's our job, right? Hmm.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's one of them. Do you have any more?
I do. Hiring property managers. So when students
Mm.
close, just knowing exactly what to look for in a good manager. And a lot of people don't know. I feel that a lot of people just hire a manager based on Google reviews, which those are important, absolutely. But really understanding what you need from that manager in order to make your property function and operate the best that it can. So that one's a really big one. Um,
Yeah, and more on the property management side, that's your strong suit. That's where you came from, right?
right,
Working with investors, owners, looking at properties, looking at numbers and everything, and our students, get a deal under contract, and we share it. We tell them, okay, now let's go out and hire a proper manager to help us with the inspection, due diligence, and eventual managing of the property, right?
right.
And so, what are a couple of things that you would say they miss out on when if they hire the wrong manager? Or what would you say what a good manager will look like?
So a good manager in my mind would be someone who communicates often. There's no such thing as over communication when it comes to a property
Mm.
manager. Um, and also it's really important to know what kind of software they're using to track your income and expenses.
Mm.
So although they are doing it for you, it's still your dollars going in and out, and you need to be so on top of that. So knowing exactly what they use. Um, as far as that goes. An Excel spreadsheet's just not going to cut it these days.
Yeah. Not for
Um,
commercial property.
and absolutely not. I don't even know how you would do it. I've seen it, unfortunately, but no, that's a big no-no in my mind. Those are two really big ones. And then, of course, negotiating the management agreement and
Mm,
what it entails. So know exactly what I'm looking for in the agreement. You know, what our maintenance minimum should be, what the actual percentage should be for the management fee, what's
yeah.
fair, what's right for the size of the property and the
Yeah.
location.
That is so important, Julia, because when a student signs an agreement, it's usually a 1 year agreement with their
Mhm.
property manager. So they're going to be your property manager for a year, right?
Right.
And what if they're horrible managers by month 4? You're stuck with them for the rest of the 8 months. It's going to be miserable. And if you try to get them out, they may sue you, right? So it's really
Exactly.
important to have a person like yourself go through the management agreement before you start doing business with them.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, terms can be missed so easily in those agreements. They're long
Yeah.
and there's a lot of information. It's hard to decipher some of it sometimes. So, yes, it's very important for it to have a second set of eyes on it.
Yeah, yeah. The first thing you mentioned was communication, right? One of the best qualities of a good property manager, communication. So basically, what you're saying is when you're looking for a property manager and you find one, and you're interviewing them, but they don't get back to you quickly or at all. That's the first sign of they're not a good property manager, right?
That's a big red flag.
Yeah, so a red flag, and that happens quite a bit, right?
Yep.
I would say a proper manager that does not call you back probably has too many properties under his or her belt and won't be able to help you out with your property.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
So it
Yep.
starts exactly there. I like 3 of those points. Okay. And do you have another one?
Um, Last one I could think of would be the accounting. I
Hmm.
think that the accounting side of things is the most overlooked. And again, I think that a lot of people aren't sure what they're looking at when it comes to the accounting on their properties,
Yeah.
or not sure what to focus on. Again, that's how things can get missed. That's how, you hear horror stories, unfortunately, of property managers taking money from owners. It
Yeah,
happens.
and you know what? That is understandable, right? Because our typical student is a typical person, right? Works for the
Right,
post office, doctor, truck driver, right? Nurse, housewife, right? And
right,
they don't have a background in accounting.
right.
Never
So,
seen a profit and loss statement, right? Never used QuickBooks, so to speak, right?
right.
And yeah, so what do you do to help them get up to speed in accounting?
So we actually use a software too to help track everything income and expense wise for the properties. It's part of being partners with us. And that's what I do is once a month I meet with the students. It forces us to go through all the income and expenses on the property, look at them line by line once a month. It's not a big deal. It's the easiest thing you can do for your property. And
Yeah.
making sure that everything makes sense, the expense costs are what they should be corresponding for those. There's no miscellaneous expenses for $20 here, $40 there. You know, we need to know where every dime's going. So teaching students exactly what to look for, how to look at a cash flow statement, how to check their own NOI. It's really back to that whole mindset of just changing your mindset. Like me, when I started out, I knew how to analyze the properties because they were operating already, but I had to change my mindset of learning now from the buying perspective of what I'm looking for. So it's
Hmm.
the same thing. We teach our students how to analyze the deal up front. We teach them how to look at the profit and loss statement, but now you own it. Now it's yours, and you need to know exactly what you're looking at for your property. Again, these are your dollars that are going in and out of this property. We need to understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. Julie, I think um, we really hit it on the head in terms of if someone wanted to learn from this video how to do it right. You mentioned the top 3 things, and I totally agree with you that most people miss out on. Number one is they must do a really good job of due diligence, right, to buy the best property.
Right.
Number two, they have to hire the right property manager, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then number 3 is the accounting, which I believe is the most overlooked important aspects of commercial real estate.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. See, this is why we brought you here, because we need this talent in our company, and our students need you.
Thanks, Peter.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Let's move on to some fun things, right? Let's talk about deals a bit, deals that you were involved in. And
Yeah.
are there any deals that kind of stand out to you that where you went in and you coached them, you helped them, and now they're a success story?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a few that come to mind. The first one would be Jacob's deal. So Jacob purchased a 90 unit property, no money down. We do have a video on that. And so basically, we helped him do the marketing. He used our marketing techniques to find the property. And with using those marketing techniques, it actually impressed the investors that he ended up using for the deal. So they ended up in the hands of the investors. They contacted him. They were so impressed with how they marketed. They knew that he knew what he was doing. They knew that he had us in the background helping, and they trusted us and trusted him. They purchased the deal with him. He did not have to put any money down because he brought the deal to them. And he ended up closing on the deal. They had to do some value add. I helped them with setting up the accounting up front. That was a big hurdle that they had to deal with. Just learning, again, like we just talked about, learning the accounting. So I
Yeah,
helped them.
and you were actually helping their property management company get to speed.
Exactly. So I was actually, yes, helping their property manager get everything organized.
Yeah.
So we did that. We had a lot of calls regarding that. And also just making sure that they were doing proper tenant screenings and making sure that the tenants that they were getting into the apartments were going to be long-term tenants.
That's
So
right. So, Julie, I recall that because after Jacob closed, I recall meeting with him, and the big issue was the amount of evictions they were
yeah,
going through, right?
right,
And then you decided, okay, the evictions are occurring because you're putting in the wrong people.
right. Not
Yeah.
screening them.
Yep.
And when I say screening them, I mean looking at the credit and criminal background checks, um, looking at income qualifications. It sounds so silly, but you got to make sure they can afford the apartment, right?
Yeah.
So looking at all of those details, so important. So now Jacob is at a point where he has basically stabilized the property. It's now producing a steady income for him. He was able to leave his job as a waiter. So he's doing big things. He is really
Yeah.
excited.
And we left out one important part. So he's collecting how much a month?
Him himself is about $3,000, I believe, is what he's collecting.
Yeah. Yep. That is awesome. That is awesome. All right. And okay, so that's the first deal. Do you have any others?
I do. Another one that comes to mind would be Dave.
Mm.
So Dave closed on 7 properties in, I want to say it's like a 3-year time span, which
Mm.
that is very quick. He went full blown into it. So with him
As a full-time truck driver too, right?
as a full-time truck driver, yes.
Yeah.
So his portfolio now consists of, I believe it's 45 units. And what we did there was we made sure to stabilize each property before going and buying the next one. So
Smart. Smart.
stabilize, purchase. That was the route
Smart.
that he wanted to take.
Hmm.
His portfolio is probably worth about 5.5 million
Yeah,
now.
that's right.
Big deal, huge deal. So he went from owning nothing, no properties. I mean, he owned his house, of course, but no investment properties, to owning a $5.5 million
Yeah.
portfolio.
Amazing.
Big
Amazing.
deal.
Yeah.
I think he's pretty close to doing this full time too, I think. So he's almost there.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. And and also learned that his wife is the real estate professional. So now he gets to write off everything, even though he's still driving a truck.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Huge deal.
Yeah.
Huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have one more to share?
I do. Yeah. The last one would be Dean. So
Mm.
Dean did very well in purchasing storage. That was his lane. It was
Mm.
his niche that he found. He liked to buy storage facilities. So he did very well with that. And in the beginning, he was disorganized. he'll admit that himself. And so what we did with him was, again, back to this word accounting, we had to organize his accounting as well, had to help him understand exactly what he was looking at as far as his cash flow on his properties, his NOI. And this all became so important because he is now looking to list one of those properties. And he had to make sure that his financials were in order to do so. So we organized all of that, made sure those financials were ready to go. And he is now on his way to making about a $2 million profit.
Yeah.
That's our route.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. Now with Dean, I think the most important thing that you helped him with was a commercial property is only worth what its NOI is, right? And with sloppy accounting or poor accounting, you can't show the public your new NOI because you don't have your stuff together numbers wise, right? Accounting wise. Yeah.
right.
So if it weren't for you, he wouldn't be able to show, printing out his property management statement from your software to show that he has an NOI that pretty much doubles what he paid for the property,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
In about a year and a half. So both of you have been working your behinds off, and making this property worth a whole lot more.
Yeah. We're
Yeah,
excited about it. I know he's
yeah,
excited. So
yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Okay. All right. So Juliet, so these three deals, I could honestly say they would not have the success that they're having, right, without your coaching, right? They just wouldn't have, right? They wouldn't be where they are, right? I can honestly say that. So I just want to thank you for that. And I'm sure the students will are thanking you for that as well. All right.
yes.
So the next step is for you to start producing your own content, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
That'll be
So
coming soon.
we're looking forward to that. Looking forward to that.
I am too.
Yeah, yeah. All right, everyone. As I mentioned before, Julia is a coach of ours, and we've held her back in the background to help out with our students. And now we're ready to release her to the world content-wise. So everything that Julia has been teaching our students, and she's going to start putting on content on YouTube and elsewhere, so you can see exactly what she does, just like what you see from me. So look out for those videos, everyone. So Julia, thank you so much for taking your time. And I know you have a newborn who's probably next to you, and we appreciate your time and all your dedication.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thanks for having me.
All right, you're welcome. You take care, and we'll be talking soon.